The forge hall of the alien academy was vast and loud. Heat filled the air like a heavy blanket. Long rows of advanced furnaces burned in bright colors: blue, green, white, and gold. Metal floors shook as machines worked without rest. This was not a normal lesson. This was the forge trial, a test that decided honor, rank, future command. Students from many species stood at their stations. Some were tall and armored. Some were thin and glowing. Others had scales, claws, or metal skin. Each one had trained for this day since childhood. This class did not forgive weakness. On a high platform, the instructor watched them. He was old, even by alien standards, and his eyes had seen many wars. When he spoke, the hall fell quiet. "You have one task," he said. "Forge a weapon. Not just any weapon. Forge one that shows the truth of your species." The furnaces roared louder. Students moved with confidence. One race fed rare star metal into the fire. Another used living crystal that sang as it melted. Energy fields shaped blades without touch. Sparks flew. Power readings climbed. This was what strength looked like in the galaxy. Then the doors opened again, eh? Human girl stepped inside. She was small compared to the others. No armor, no glowing tools. Just a simple uniform and calm eyes. She walked slowly through the hall, ignoring the stares. In her hands she carried a small cloth bundle. Whispers followed her. A human. They let humans take the forge trial. What can she possibly forge? She reached an empty station near the back. She placed the bundle on the stone table and unwrapped it. Inside was a single piece of bone. The reaction was instant. Laughter burst through the hall. Sharp clicks. Harsh hisses. Heavy stomps. One alien leaned forward and laughed openly. "That is not a weapon," he said. "That is waste." Another voice added, "Humans truly are weak if this is all they bring." The human girl did not react. Her name was Ari. She picked up the bone and studied it. It was long, smooth, and pale. Old, but strong. She ran her fingers along it like she was greeting an old friend. The instructor noticed the noise and turned. His gaze toward her station. His eyes narrowed. "Student," he said, "explain your material." Ari straightened. "It is bone, instructor." "I see that," he replied. "Why use it?" "Because it survives," Ari said simply. More laughter followed, but softer now. The instructor paused for a long moment. "Proceed," he said. Some students shook their heads. Others smirked. They returned to their glowing metals and advanced tools. Already certain of the outcome, Ari placed the bone into the furnace. The heat rose fast. Warning lights flashed as the system adjusted. Temperatures climbed beyond what basic materials could survive. The furnace glowed white. Someone shouted, "It will burn." Someone else said, "She has failed already." The bone did not burn. Instead, it began to darken. A deep gray color spread across its surface, slow and steady. The bone did not crack or turn to ash. It held its shape, as if the fire could not decide what to do with it. The forge sensors began to struggle. Numbers jumped and dropped. Density readings made no sense. The instructor stepped closer. Ari adjusted the heat with calm movements. She did not use energy gloves or shaping fields. She used simple hand tools and patience. She removed the bone and placed it on the stone table. It was hot, but stable. The laughter had stopped. Around the hall, students slowed their work. Some paused completely. They stared at the human station without meaning to. Ari picked up a rough sharpening stone and began to work. She moved slowly, carefully, drawing the stone along the bone again and again. The sound was quiet, almost gentle. Not metal on stone, something deeper. The air felt strange. One alien checked his readings and froze. "Instructor," he said quietly, "the material is changing." The instructor did not answer. His eyes were fixed on the bone. "What bone is that?" he asked that Ari did not stop working. "It came from a great animal," she said. "It lived in a hard place. It fought to survive." The furnace behind her dimmed, as if tired. The bone began to change shape. A long edge formed, thin, clean, sharp. It was not beautiful. It did not glow. It did not hum with power, but it looked dangerous. Ari lifted it and tested the edge with her thumb. A thin red line appeared. She nodded once. Silence filled the forge hall. No, one laughed now. The instructor felt something he had not felt in many cycles. Concern human, he said slowly. What do you call that weapon? Ari looked at the dark blade in her hands. It is just a tool, she replied. The forge lights flickered deep within the academy systems. Alarms quietly shut down, unsure if they were needed. The bone blade rested in Ari's hands, dark and still. And in that moment, every being in the forge hall understood something they had not expected. They had mocked the human, and the forge had answered. Asterisk. The forge hall did not return to normal after the laughter ended. The air still felt heavy, as if the heat had pressed something unseen into the walls. Students tried to return to their work, but many failed. Their eyes kept drifting back to the human station, to the dark blade that should not exist. Ari stood quietly. She did not raise her weapon or show pride. She cleaned her tools and set them in order, as she had been taught. To her, the forge was not a place for showing power. It was a place for focus. The instructor remained near her station. His many eyes watched the bone blade, then the human, then the blade again. At last he spoke. Human, he said, your material choice breaks expectation. Explain it. Ari paused. She placed the blade down and rested her hands on the stone table. For a moment, she was not in the forge hall anymore. She was somewhere else. She remembered a dry world under a red sun. Wind cut across empty land. Cities were small and far apart. Metals were rare and guarded. When machines broke, there was no quick replacement. Humans learned early that survival did not wait for perfect tools. On her world, hunters and soldiers used what remained after battle. Broken armor, fallen beasts, died. Old bones left behind by time. Bone did not rust. Bone did not crack easily. When treated with care, it could last for years. Her first teacher had been an old woman with scarred hands. She had placed a bone knife into Ari's grip and said, Steel forgets. Bone remembers. It remembers life. Back in the forge hall, Ari lifted her head. Humans come from places where loss is common, she said calmly. We use what remains. Some students shifted uncomfortably. Others listened despite themselves. The instructor folded his arms. Bone is weak, he said. Ari shook her head. Bone is strong when treated right. It holds memory. The instructor studied the blade again. Memory, yes, Ari said, of survival. Around them, the forge systems continued to struggle. Sensors failed to lock onto the blade. Heat readings remained unstable near her station, even though the furnace was cooling. One alien student, tall and plated in armor, spoke from across the hall. That is story, not science. Ari did not argue. She lifted the blade and moved to the testing block. A thick slab of reinforced alloy meant to dull weak weapons. She did not strike hard. She placed the blade against the surface and pushed. The bone blade slid through the alloy as if it were soft clay. There was no spark, no noise, just a clean line. Gasps filled the hall. The armored student stepped back. The instructor raised one clawed hand. Enough, he said. Ari returned the blade to her station. Humans learned long ago, she continued, that survival is not about strength alone. It is about choice. The forge hall was quiet again, but this time it was not shock that filled it. It was thought many alien cultures prized beauty in their weapons. Balance, light, power display. Humans valued something else. Ending fights quickly, the instructor turned away for a moment, deep in thought. He had studied hundreds of species. He had seen plasma blades and gravity hammers, yet this simple weapon unsettled him more than any of them. You shape the bone by hand, he said. Why not use fields or machines? Ari looked at her hands.
Ari.
Because hands feel weakness. Machines do not. Some students looked at their own advanced tools with new doubt. The forge trial timer continued to count down. Other students rushed to finish, their confidence shaken. Some overworked their weapons. Others pushed too much power into their blades. Cracks formed. Failures followed. Ari waited. She sharpened the bone blade again, slower this time. Each movement was calm. She was not racing the clock. She trusted the blade to be ready when needed. The instructor watched closely. He began to understand something dangerous. Humans did not rush to win. They waited to endure. At last he spoke to the hall. The shaping phase will end soon. Prepare for evaluation. A low murmur spread through the students. Eyes turned again toward the human. One alien student stepped forward, his voice tight. "Instructor, I challenge the human weapon." The hall froze. A duel during the forge trial was rare. It meant risk. It meant public judgment. The instructor looked at the challenger, then at Ari. "Do you accept?" he asked her. Ari met the challenger's gaze. She saw pride there. Fear too. "Yes," she said. The hall lights dimmed slightly as the dual circle activated. Energy fields formed around the central floor. The instructor raised his hand. "The duel will test function, not honor," he said. "No killing." The challenger activated his weapon. It hummed with power. A bright arc of energy wrapped in metal. Ari stepped into the circle with only the bone blade. No glow, no hum, just silence as they faced each other. The forge hall felt smaller, tighter. Every being watched. The instructor realized then that this was no longer just a test. It was a lesson, and the human had already begun to teach it. The dual circle closed with a soft hum. A thin energy wall rose around the two fighters, cutting them off from the rest of the forge hall. The heat, the noise, the fear, everything felt sharper inside the circle. Ari stood still. Across from her, the challenger adjusted his stance. He was tall, his body wrapped in layered armor that reflected the forge lights. In his hands, the energy blade pulsed and shifted, alive with power. It whispered as it moved, hungry and bright. The instructor raised his hand. "Begin." The challenger attacked first. He moved fast, far faster than any human should be able to react. His blade cut through the air in a wide arc, leaving a trail of light behind it. The sound alone made some students flinch. Ari stepped back once. The energy blade passed where her head had been. She did not rush. She did not counter. She watched. The challenger struck again, faster this time, forcing Ari toward the edge of the circle. Sparks burst as the energy blade brushed the floor. The alien pressed harder, certain of victory. "She cannot last," someone whispered. But Ari did not panic. She remembered her training, not in academies like this one, but in quiet places where mistakes meant death. Her teachers had taught her to wait, to read movement, to feel timing. The challenger raised his blade for a final strike. Ari moved. She stepped inside his guard, faster than expected. Her bone blade rose in a single smooth motion. There was no clash, no explosion. The energy blade flickered, then it died. The challenger froze. His weapon shut down completely, the power core blinking uselessly. Before he could react, Ari's blade rested lightly against his armor, just below the throat. The dual circle went silent. Ari stepped back and lowered her weapon. The challenger dropped to one knee, stunned, alive, and unharmed. The energy wall faded. For a long moment, no one spoke. The instructor felt a slow, chill move through him. He had seen advanced weapons fail before, but never like this. The bone blade had not fought the energy. It had ignored it. "How?" someone asked. The challenger looked up at Ari, disbelief clear in his eyes. "What did you do?" Ari answered honestly. "I cut the control path. Energy follows rules. Bone does not." The instructor turned to the forge systems. "Run a scan." Machines tried. They failed. The blade resisted mapping. Density, structure, and composition shifted each time the sensors adjusted. The system could not decide what the weapon was. The instructor faced the class. "You have witnessed something important," he said. The human weapon did not overpower. It adapted. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some students felt anger, others fear. A few felt respect. Ari returned to her station. She cleaned the blade again, removing a small mark where the energy field had touched it. The bone looked darker now, stronger. As the trial continued, other students finished their weapons. Some were impressive, others were flawed. But none drew the same attention as the bone blade. The evaluation phase began. One by one, weapons were tested. Strength, durability, control. Many passed. Some failed. When Ari's turn came, the hall leaned forward. The instructor gestured to the test blocks. Begin. Ari approached the first block, made of layered alloy, meant to stop ship-mounted weapons. She did not swing. She pressed. The blade slid through. The second block was designed to disrupt matter. The blade passed through untouched. The third block adjusted its density to resist cutting. The bone blade adjusted too. Gasps echoed. Enough, the instructor said, raising his hand. The result is clear. He turned to Ari. Human, your weapon does not follow expected design. That is correct, she said. Explain its purpose. Ari thought for a moment. It is not made to win battles, she said. It is made to end them. A silence followed. Some students felt uneasy. Others finally understood. The instructor recorded his findings. Human forging principles will be archived under adaptive survival doctrine, he announced. That caused an uproar. No species had ever forced the Academy to create a new category. The challenger, now standing again, approached Ari. His pride was gone. You could have killed me, he said. Yes, Ari replied. Why didn't you? Because the test was not about killing, she said. It was about proving a point. He nodded slowly and stepped away. As the forge trial ended, students left the hall in quiet groups. Many avoided Ari. A few watched her with new interest. The instructor remained behind. You changed something today, he said. Ari met his gaze. No, she replied. I revealed something. He looked at the bone blade one last time. For the first time in many cycles, the Academy's future felt uncertain, and somewhere deep within the system archives, a new warning was added. Do not underestimate humanity. The forge hall slowly emptied, but the feeling left behind did not fade. The heat cooled. The machines powered down. Still, the air felt tight, as if the walls remembered what had happened. Ari remained at her station. She wrapped the bone blade in cloth and set it beside her tools. She thought the trial was over. She was wrong. The instructor stood alone on the platform reading messages that scrolled across his private display. His posture stiffened. One by one, his eyes narrowed. The Academy Council had noticed. Across the station, security fields activated without sound. Doors sealed. Red symbols glowed along the walls. Students froze. A low voice echoed through the hall. All participants remain where you are. Ari felt it then. Not fear, but awareness. She had felt it before, back home, just before things went bad. From the far entrance, 3 figures entered. They wore dark robes marked with council seals. Their steps were slow, controlled. They did not look at the students. Their attention was fixed on one place. Ari's station, the lead counselor spoke. Instructor, you allowed an unapproved material to pass evaluation. The instructor did not bow. I allowed the forge to judge, he replied. The counselor's gaze shifted to the wrapped blade. That weapon is not recorded in our databases. It is now, the instructor said. Murmurs spread among the students. Council presence during a trial was rare. It meant concern, danger. The second counselor stepped forward. Human, she said, her voice cold. Step away from the weapon. Ari did not move. The room went very quiet. The instructor turned sharply. She has broken no rule. No, the first counselor agreed. But she has revealed a flaw. Ari slowly stepped back, hands visible. If the weapon is the problem, she said, take it. The counselors exchanged glances. The third counselor spoke for the first time. We are not afraid of the weapon, he said. We are afraid of the idea behind it. That made some students uneasy. What idea? Someone whispered. The lead counselor answered. A weapon that ignores our systems. A method that bypasses our control. This academy exists to shape order. Ari looked at them calmly. Humans do not shape order, she said. We survive chaos. The counselor's eyes hardened. Exactly. He raised a hand. This blade will be tested further. In a controlled environment, the instructor stiffened. You mean weapon testing? Yes, Ari spoke before he could stop her. I will go with it. All eyes turned to her. The counselor studied her. You would volunteer? Yes, she said. Because without me, you will break it. And if you break it, you will learn nothing. Silence followed. The counselor lowered his hand. Very well. You will demonstrate. The forge hall shifted. New fields formed. The floor reconfigured into a testing chamber. Automated drones rose from hidden ports, their frames heavy and armed. Students stepped back as barriers locked them out. The instructor watched with concern. These drones are combat grade. They are safe, the counselor replied. Mostly. Ari stepped into the chamber. She unwrapped the bone blade. The drones activated. The first attacked without warning. A heavy arm swung down, powered by force enough to crush armor. Ari moved sideways. The strike missed by a breath. She did not attack. She watched. The second drone fired a pulse shot. Ari ducked. The energy burned the floor behind her. Students gasped. She cannot keep this up, someone said. Ari waited. The drones adjusted tactics. One moved to block escape. The other charged. Ari stepped forward instead of back. She slid under the heavy arm and placed the bone blade against the drone's joint. She did not slash. She pushed. The blade slipped into the joint and cut the internal control line. The drone froze. The second drone fired again. Ari rolled, came up close, and struck once. Not hard. Not fast. Precise. The blade cut through the drone's power housing. The machine powered down. Silence returned. The chamber opened. Ari stood alone, breathing steady. The counselor stared. The lead counselor finally spoke. You fight like a system failure, Ari nodded. That is how humans survive systems. The instructor felt something shift inside him. This was no longer about a forge test. The counselor turned to the hall. The human weapon will be classified, its method restricted. Ari met his gaze. You cannot restrict a mindset. The counselor paused. He knew she was right. The council left without another word. The barriers dropped. Students slowly returned to their stations, changed by what they had seen. The instructor approached Ari. You have made powerful enemies. She wrapped the blade again. Humans are used to that. As she left the forge hall, whispers followed her. Not laughter this time. Fear, respect, and a quiet understanding. The academy had not tested the human. The human had tested the academy, and it had failed. The days after the forge incident passed slowly. The academy returned to its routines, but something had changed. Conversations were quieter. Training halls felt tense. Students watched each other more closely, especially when humans were nearby. Ari noticed it at once. She walked the long corridors alone. Doors opened slower for her. Some students stepped aside. Others stared. No one laughed anymore. The academy had marked her weapon as classified, but that did not erase what people had seen. The instructor was called before the council. When he returned, his posture was stiff, his voice careful. They want to understand humans, he told Ari later, but they also want control. Ari nodded. They always do. She was summoned soon after. The council chamber was vast and cold, shaped from dark stone and light. The counselors sat high above the floor, their forms half hidden by shadows and screens. Human Ari, the lead counselor said, you will explain your people. Ari stood straight. Humans cannot be explained simply. The counselor's eyes narrowed. Try. Ari took a breath. Humans are not the strongest, she said. We are not the fastest. We are not the most advanced. We survive because we accept loss and learn from it. Images appeared in the air. Human worlds, harsh climates, broken cities rebuilt again and again. We do not discard failure, Ari continued. We study it. One counselor leaned forward. Your bone weapon carries memory. You said this before. Explain, Ari paused. Bone comes from life. It carries weight. When humans hold it, we remember that survival has a cost. Silence filled the chamber. You forge weapons to kill? Another counselor said. Yes, Ari replied. But more than that, we forge them to avoid killing again. That answer unsettled them. The council dismissed her without praise or threat. It worried her more than anger would have soon after. News spread through the academy. The border system had gone silent. Ships had vanished. Advanced defenses failed without warning. An unknown force was moving. Emergency drills began. Weapons were issued. Strategies formed, and they did not work. Simulations showed alien technology failing in strange ways. Energy shields collapsed. Targeting systems went blind. The instructor stood before the command board, watching loss after loss. This enemy ignores our systems, he said quietly. All eyes turned to Ari. The council called her again. You have faced system failure, the lead counselor said. What would humans do? Ari looked at the battlefield displays. We would stop trying to control it, she said, and start adapting. The council hesitated. We want your methods, one said. Your weapons. You can copy the tools, Ari replied, but not the thinking. Then teach us. Training began immediately. Ari worked with mixed units. Humans, aliens, machines. She showed them how to fight without relying on sensors, how to read movement, how to use simple materials when tech failed. Some resisted, others learned fast. Bone-based tools were created, not refined, not pretty, but effective. The first real battle came sooner than expected. The enemy struck an outer station. Advanced weapons failed as predicted. Chaos followed. Ari led a small unit through smoke and broken corridors. Her bone blade moved clean and silent. She cut through enemy armor, where energy failed. Others followed her lead. The enemy retreated. It was the first time anyone had pushed them back. The academy watched in stunned silence. After the battle, the council released a statement. Human adaptive doctrine would be studied. Restricted, but recognized. The instructor found Ari later, sitting alone. You changed the path of this war, he said. Ari shook her head. Humans do not change paths, she replied. We walk the ones no one else wants. The academy lights dimmed as ships launched for war. And for the first time in its long history, the galaxy prepared to fight like humans. Not with perfect weapons, but with the will to survive. The war did not wait for permission. It spread fast, like fire in dry air. Star systems went silent one after another. Stations that had stood for centuries were lost in hours. Advanced fleets vanished without sending a final signal. The enemy did not announce itself. It did not threaten. It simply arrived, and technology stopped working. The academy became a command center. Halls once used for learning filled with maps, warnings, and moving symbols of loss. Officers argued. Councils debated. Plans failed. Ari watched quietly. She had seen this before. Not this enemy, but this pattern. When systems collapsed, panic followed. Humans had learned through pain. That panic killed faster than any weapon. Stop relying on your screens, she said during one briefing. They are lying to you. Some commanders bristled. Others listened. A small task force was formed under her guidance. Not because she had rank, but because she had results. It included humans, aliens, and machines stripped down to basic function. They removed advanced targeting systems. They disabled automated responses. They trained to fight blind. Many thought this was madness. Then the enemy came. The task force was sent to a mining colony near a dead star. Sensors failed as soon as the enemy entered the system. Communications dropped. The fleet drifted in silence. "Stay close," Ari ordered. "Watch with your eyes." The enemy ships were strange, smooth, dark. They bent light and space around them. Energy weapons passed through them like smoke. Ari led the boarding team herself, inside the enemy ship. Gravity shifted without warning. Lights failed. The air felt wrong. Advanced weapons shut down. Panic began to rise. "Hold," Ari said. Her voice was calm. "Use your hands." They moved through dark corridors with simple blades, weighted tools, and bone weapons. They listened for movement. They felt vibrations through the floor. The enemy was fast, predictable. It relied on systems Ari did not. Her blade cut through armor where energy could not. She aimed for joints. Control paths. Weak points learned through observation, not scans. Others followed her example. The enemy ship fell silent. Across the system, similar teams reported success. Losses were still heavy, no longer one-sided. The enemy began to retreat. The council watched the reports in disbelief. "They are adapting to us." One said, "No," the instructor replied. "We are adapting to them." The academy changed its training overnight. Courses on system reliance were suspended. New drills focused on failure response. Students learned to fight without sight, sound, or guidance. It was uncomfortable. It was human. Ari became a symbol, though she did not want to be. Her image spread across networks. Some praised her. Others feared her. The council classified more information. Restricted human doctrine. Limited access, it did not matter. The idea had escaped. Across the galaxy, commanders began to copy human methods. Simple tools. Redundant plans. Training for loss? The enemy slowed. Then it changed. It began targeting human. Units first. Ari knew what that meant. "They see us as the threat," she told the instructor. "Can we protect you?" He asked. Ari smiled faintly. "Humans do not need protection. We need time." The enemy launched a direct assault on the academy system. It was a message. Fleets gathered. Defense lines formed. Systems failed. Ari stood on the command deck as alarms fell silent one by one. "Now," she said. The defense fleet powered down its advanced systems on purpose. The enemy hesitated. Then human-led units. Struck. Boarding actions. Close combat. No signals. No energy weapons. The battle was brutal. Losses were heavy, but the enemy broke. When the final enemy ship fell dark, the system was still standing. The council sat in silence. The lead counselor finally spoke. "We tried to control humans," the instructor answered quietly. "You cannot control survival." Ari looked out at the stars. Tired but steady. The war was not over, but for the first time. The galaxy was no longer helpless, and it had learned the hardest lesson of all. When systems fail, humanity endures. Asterisk, the war did not end all at once. It slowed. Enemy attacks became rare. When they did strike, they failed more often than they succeeded. Systems were repaired. Borders stabilized. For the first time in many cycles, the galaxy could breathe. The academy survived. It did not look the same. Training halls were quieter now. Walls once filled with glowing screens held simple tools instead. Students ran drills without sensors. Weapons racks held fewer energy blades and more solid weapons made from simple materials. Bone was among them. Not all bone. Not all human-made. But the idea had spread. Ari no longer stood in the shadows of the command room. She had been offered rank, titles, and authority. She refused most of them. She accepted only one role, teacher. She stood in the forge hall again, where it had all begun. New students filled the room. Many species, many worlds. Some looked nervous, others curious. None laughed. Ari placed a piece of bone on the stone table. "This is not special," she said. "It is only bone." Students leaned closer. What matters, she continued, is why you choose what you choose. She watched their faces as she spoke. For a long time. The galaxy believed strength came from power, from systems, from control, Ari said. Humans learned something else. She paused, letting the silence work. When control fails, what remains is you. The instructor stood nearby, older now, quieter. He watched her teach and felt a strange pride. The academy had once shaped warriors. Now it shaped survivors. Outside the academy, the galaxy changed. Commanders rewrote their doctrines. Fleets trained for failure. Systems were designed to break safely instead of perfectly. Human advisors were requested across sectors. Some worlds resisted. They clung to old ways. Those worlds fell first when the enemy returned in small numbers. Others adapted. They lived. The enemy was never fully destroyed. It faded, learned, and withdrew. It no longer attacked openly. It avoided humans whenever possible. That alone told the galaxy enough. Years passed. Ari aged slowly, quietly. Her movements became less sharp, but her eyes stayed clear. She trained others to take her place. Humans, aliens, anyone willing to learn. The bone blade was sealed, behind a transparent field in the academy vault. Students passed it every day. No one was allowed to touch it. It was not displayed as a weapon. It was displayed as a reminder. Plaques surrounded it, written in many languages. They did not list battles or victories. They listed lessons. Tools matter less than thinking. Survival is a skill. Adaptation is strength. New students often stopped before the case. They stared at the simple blade and felt uneasy. It did not look powerful. That was the point. One day, long after the war had faded into memory, a young student asked the instructor, "Why do we still teach human methods?" The instructor looked at the blade. Because one day, he said, everything you trust will fail, and you will need to remember how to stand without it. The student nodded, not fully understanding. That was normal. Understanding came later. Ari passed quietly, without ceremony. No fleets gathered. No monuments were built in her name. At her request, there was only a simple marker placed near the academy gardens. It read, "She taught us how to endure." The galaxy moved on. New threats rose. New alliances formed. Technology advanced again. Systems grew smarter, stronger. But buried inside every major doctrine was a quiet rule. Never spoken aloud, but always present. Plan for failure. That rule came from humans. From a forge. From a piece of bone. And from a moment when the galaxy laughed at a human and learned never to do so again.